Hey guys, welcome back again to Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy, where the proof is in the singing. I'm continuing my series on how to sing like. Next up, Freddie Mercury from Queen. With that said, if you wouldn't mind, please like and subscribe to my channel. That would be really cool. Don't forget to ring that bell so I can keep new cool videos coming your way. And I have a singing course. The course is called How to Sing Better Than Anyone Else. You can find it right here at KenTamplinVocalAcademy.com, where I also have a beautiful free singing forms for any of you wanting to learn how to sing, those of you that are kind of, in the middle of, mid-range singers and also very advanced singers. I take singing from the very basic levels all the way to the highest levels, and we negotiate all of these different awesome singers in hopes to help make you an awesome singer. So now Freddie is just one unique dude. I don't know that we'll ever see another Freddie Mercury, but I want to walk you through a few songs. I put together a medley, and I'll put all this stuff in the description, but the uniqueness and versatility of Freddie, and then just his incredible compositions, his theatrical sort of approach to singing, his flamboyance, his character, his storytelling, everything goes into that. So it's not just, I'm going to show you some techniques on how to sing like Freddie, though we'll talk about that, but we'll also talk about some of the other elements that made Freddie Freddie and how to get to those places too. So with that said, I'll do this first, and then I'm going to show you some of the students that I have that I've worked up some stuff with Freddie as well. Here we go.
I've paid my dues time after time. I've done my sentence but committed no crime. And our mistakes, I've made a few. I've had my share of said kicks in my face, but I ain't gonna lose.
Okay, now I want to start with the top of this. And by the way, no one can do Freddie better than Freddie or Mark Martel. Now, I know that Queen has a new singer, and I'm not going to talk about, Adam Lambert's approach to that because he's also a super awesome singer. But I actually think Mark Martel is quite a bit closer to Freddie's sound, even though I think, Adam's doing a great job for Queen. But at the beginning of this tune, I've paid my dues, right? Now, again, I'm going to reemphasize this. I have a much lower register than Freddie. Now, not like some of the other stuff when I take on a Steelheart song or something like that, where it's in the stratosphere. Freddie's 2 notches above me in vocal ranges. He's a tenor, though he claimed he was a baritone. He was actually a low tenor. But I've paid my dues time after time. I've done my sentence but committed no crime. And by mistakes, I've made a few, right? So let me talk about how all this went down. Now, at the beginning, he doesn't always do this, but in some of the more sensitive stuff, he adds a lot of air. So do it with me, but this time, instead of going, and adding a glut of air, I want you to kind of pretend like you're holding your breath a little bit. And I go, and in fact, let me back this up one more time because we're going to really dig into this kind of deep. So
for our vocal demonstration today, probably the most requested vocalist to date.
Here we go.
And it goes like this. Roll it.
Here we go.
I've paid my dues time after time.
Okay, now we're going to just do a couple lines.
I've done
Whoops.
my
I actually had a really bad head cold when I actually had a pneumonia when I did this. But anyway, I still sang through it. We talk about singing through colds and flus, and this is one of those times where I'd already booked the studio time and I prepaid for the time, and I didn't want to just lose it, so I just went in and did a Freddie demonstration. But anyway, with that said, but I want you to do this with me. Let's get our pitch together. We're gonna add just a little bit of air. We're gonna hold our breath. I've paid my dues. And we're not gonna sing too loud, right? I'm not going, I've paid my dues. I'm not doing that. So I'm cutting back the air. I'm looking for tone. Freddie kind of over accentuated a lot of his vowel and consonant sounds, so his words. So I've paid my dues and time after time. So just try, kind of hold back the breath. a little bit, time after time. I've done my sentence, right? And he's really big on making you be in the story with him. So I could have gone, I've done my sentence and committed no crime. And I could have been very sing-songy with it. But Freddie didn't do that. He was very theatrical. And he was very operatically theatrical about his approach to this. So, and by mistakes. Now watch this few. This is one of the things that I wouldn't do normally as a singer. I made a few. Right, he's got you, and he's really closed on the vowel. It's a little dangerous to do that. I would go, I made a few, and I'd go, oh, ooh, to get to the sound, because you can get really caught up in the throat. And then he'd go, I've had some kicked in my face, and then he kind of goes into the Freddie thing. So let's go into that mode here. Here.
Sentence, but committed no crime. And about mistakes, I've made a few. I've had my share of sand kicked in my face, but I ain't gonna lose.
Now, I want you to look really closely at something else that I'm doing that Freddie was a master at. If you back this up and look really closely to my diaphragmatic support, you're gonna see me coming in for the breath every time. I'm not holding the air and trying to do this in one contiguous phrase like I usually do on a lot of my contiguous phrase singing stuff, because he didn't do that. He did more phrase singing, which means that he would take quick breaths in between. I've done my sentence, hey, oh, yeah, I'm taking a breath between each phrase, right? And you got to get really good at this or you're going to get really bound up in the stomach, but it's the stomach that's doing all the work in this to give me the ability to free up my chest, my neck, and my throat so I don't get caught in strain in the throat. People are kind of like, oh, is he going to be able to hit that next note? I can't imagine. He's singing so hard. Well, I am, because I understand good open throat technique. I cover all of this in my singing course, guys, on how to build muscle memory for good open throat technique with all this diaphragmatic support, and also sing this stab phrase singing that Freddie does, particularly in songs like this.
We are the champions, my friends. We'll keep on fighting.
Now, let's talk about this. We've talked about mixed voice a lot and about heads. We'll keep on fighting. We'll keep on fighting until the end. Right? So you can go from your chest and you can roll right up into mixed voice without hearing the right? You go back and forth with chest and head like I'm doing here, like Freddie did a lot of. Now, he could hit this full voice. He didn't want to. So I'm doing it like Freddie. I didn't want to because I wanted to sound in the spirit of Freddie, or wanted to show off the technique of Freddie. Let me back this up again really close, really quick so you can hear this break.
We'll keep on fighting till the end.
Hear that?
We are the champions. We are the champions. No time for losers, 'cause we are the champions of the world. I work hard every day of my life. I work till I ache my bones. At the end, I take home my heart and think I'm a young.
Okay, so-
Down on my knees.
So right there, so he goes back to that breathy sound, I work hard every day of my life. I work till I ache my bones. At the end of the, I take home, right? So he's in that mode, and then he shifts from the breathy mode into the belting mode. Listen to this. So he's kind of like contrasting back and forth between breath and belt and breath and belt. And it gives a lot of emotion, a lot of passion in the sound, because he's really trying to just tell in his story. He writes this lyric, and when you really think it, I work hard every day of my life. I work till I ache my bones. At the end of the day, I take home my hard-earned pay. And then he just, oh, then he belts it out, right? Let's listen back to this one more time. Here we go.
At the end, I take home my heart and think get down on my knees and I start to pray till the tears run down from my eyes. Oh, somebody, ooh, somebody, can anybody?
Oh, somebody, yeah, somebody. You know, he kind of gets heavy and bright on the. Can anybody find? He goes back to a little more of a light sound and then back into this.
Find me somebody to love.
Very theatrical.
Love every day, and I try and I try and I try, but everybody wants to put me down. They say I'm going crazy.
Notice the everybody wants to put me down. They say I'm going crazy. Right? He's got this real he's not worried about singing in a pocket. He's just spitting it out from his heart. Everybody wants to put me down. They think I'm going crazy. Right? I just sort of picture this flamboyance of just him telling his story. He's not worried about singing in a meter and singing in a pocket, soul singing. It's very theatrical. And that's one of the things that made Freddie compared to a lot of other singers that sing on the dotted line of rhythm. Okay, he had great rhythm. I'm not saying he didn't. In fact, it's even harder to do that and find the pocket of getting back to the one, right? And making it all work and making not just rhythmical, but also rhyming and rhythmical and musical all at the same time. So that's really cool.
They say I got a lot of water in my brain. Oh, I got no common sense. I got nobody left to me.
He's got that mixed voice that goes in and out. Now, he can hit those notes full voice. He chose not to. He was looking for a different kind of sound, okay? Here we go.
Yeah!
I don't think he did that on the record. I added that. Destroy. Ooh, he has a hey, ooh, ooh, kind of a grindy sort of sound to his voice. Now, sometimes he did it where that technique couldn't hurt you, is okay to do, and sometimes he did it where he didn't care. A lot of times he did it where he didn't care, which was true of his vibrato as well, and I want to talk about that for a second too. So that grindy sound was kind of just more of a street distorted kind of sound. But if you notice, he always came back up and cleaned his sound up, so he didn't always have to sentence himself to singing into that sound, into a grindy sound whenever he went up to get notes. So he used it for effect. Ooh, somebody, yeah. He's got that real, kind of grindy sound. I do my distortion a little bit different. I cover that both of these in my singing course, particularly the healthy and safe way to do it. I was going to talk about vibrato. And in the vibrato part, I work hard every day of my life. He's got kind of more of a caprino vibrato, like a goat swiggle. So his vibrato was not technical at all. It was very theatrical. Now, for those of you that know about vibrato, I don't want to go in a big whole thing on this, but there are many different kinds of vibratos, and I have a whole video on vibrato. I'll try to remember to put that in the description so you can check it out. He used a caprino vibrato. It's very unstable at times, but that added to the emotion of his singing. So 1 minute, it was kind of very uncontrollable. He even said that way early on when they were talking about Paul Rodgers' vibrato, and he was arguing a little bit about, how Paul Rodgers, had a better vibrato than him. He said, I don't care. That's not me. A vibrato comes and it goes. I don't know when it, whatever. He didn't care because it was more about the emotion coming out of him. And when the vibrato kicked in, it kicked in. Now, vibratos, to be a true, legit, natural vibrato, and not saying his wasn't natural, but natural as a relaxation response in the throat, it should, you were looking at a flat line like a heart monitor, the vibrato should go, hey, and should drop below the flat line in pitch. Hey, right? Freddie's went above the line. Hey, hey, right? So it gave the illusion of kind of a little tension and almost a little sharpness to the sound because it's vibrating above the line. Elton John is another example. He did the same thing. There's quite a few singers that are like that. So it actually added tension to his singing, and not only tension in the throat, I meant tension in the sound. So with that said, that also contributed to his, everything was kind of like, you could feel the energy of it all the time, especially particularly with vibrato. Sorry for the big tangent, but I thought it was worthy. Okay, here we go.
Can anybody find me somebody to love?
So you go, la, you go, yeah, the real fast vibrato there.
Get your party going, get your pigtails down, get your heartbeat, baby. I got my timing right, I got my act all tight. It's gotta be tonight, my little school band.
Again, theatrical, I get your party going and get your quick down loud. He's like, he's got the rock voice going. It's gotta be tonight, my little school babe. Now, there were quite a few bands in the 70s that did this. There were a lot of kind of what I'm gonna call, and not that all of them did this, but everyone had sort of a rock opera kind of vibe. And I don't mean like rock opera as in Queensryche kind of, rock opera sort of sound. I mean like Tommy. I mean like, Iggy Pop did early stuff like this. Believe it or not, David Bowie's kind of was a little in that category early on. There are a lot of bands, Ballroom Blitz, you probably, there's a man in the back and everyone attacks and went to the Ballroom Blitz, Ballroom Blitz, there was a lot of bands like that had this very dramatic sort of thing. And they would just spit out these lyrics dramatically like that. And it was really a shtick for a lot of people, and with Freddie, he led the pack in that. So I thought that was interesting. That's another thing that made Freddie. So
your mama says you don't, your daddy says you won't. I'm boiling up inside, ain't no way I'm gonna lose out this time. Oh no,
Paul Rogers.
oh no. Tie your mother down, tie your mother down. Lock your daddy out the doors, I don't need him nosing around.
See what I mean?
Tie your mother down, tie your mother down. Give me all your love tonight. This thing I call love, well I just...
Now, while he did airy stuff that we started talking about at the very beginning of this, okay, this is more of a crooner thing that he's like, this thing, like Elvis, call love, I get in, I get a kind of crooner. Oh, yeah. I'm on a motorbike, I get ready, Freddie. Crazy little thing called love, right? So he used kind of more of an Elvis approach. Harry Connick Jr. did this too with like the Frank Sinatra kind of vibe. And there were other elements. That's why he brought in so many different elements where he got some of this and some of that, some theater, some rock opera, Elvis, all these different sounds that he was looking to integrate. And he does that here in this song. So it's very unique. It's not just a breathy vocal. It's very crooner.
I can't handle it, this thing
Michael Bublé, right?
called love, well I must get around to it, ain't ready. Crazy little thing called love. I've gotta be cool, relax, I get hip, I get on my tracks, take a back seat, a hitchhike, and take a long ride on a motorbike until I'm ready. A crazy little thing called love.
We all know this one.
Buddy, you're a boy, make a big noise, playing in the streets, gonna be a big man someday. You got mud on your face, you big disgrace, kicking your can all over the place, singing, we will rock you.
Now, I'm going to go on, but I want to get to some of my other artists too, and I don't want to make this video too long. Back then, believe it or not, there weren't that many bands doing anthemic choruses like this. Buddy, you're more man and big nose, man. We will rock you. Right? Now, there were some. Kiss with some, I want to rock and roll all night, party every day. But in this sense, Queen kind of led the pack for a lot of this big anthemic sort of sound and incorporated that, and a lot of other bands kind of came along and copied it. But if you really think about, like the Led Zeppelins that were around, or, you go down a whole list of a lot of bands. Now, I'm not saying that there weren't Grand Funks and there weren't some bands that had kind of a corporate chorus kind of a sound, but this is more of an anthemic sound, like where the whole world is, singing this vocal. And no, there weren't a lot of bands doing it. Bon Jovi later came into that, and of course Whitesnake and other bands later. But as far as that big anthemic chorus kind of sounds, man, Queen kind of led the pack. Now, I could go ahead and play the song, it's kind of the same vibe. But I wanted really to show you guys that that it isn't just Ken Tamplin that does this. Ken Tamplin is the student. So here we have another version of this, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but this was a student I had called Aliona.
Empty spaces, what are we living for? Abandoned places, I guess we know the scar. On and on, does anybody know what we are looking for? Another hero, another mindless crime behind the curtain.
Now, there's good and not so good in this. Technically, it's pretty cool. Aliona's doing a great job technically. She doesn't have anywhere near the passion and emotion that Freddie's using. So empty spaces, what are we living for? Abandoned places. Freddie's got that really dramatic. I think we know the score. One and one. He's got that real, diamonds are a girl's best friend, right? And that sort of, real dramatic theater kind of thing. And she's doing a great job technically getting all the notes and stuff, not quite matching the passion of it, but nonetheless, again, we're all learning on how to get to these different spaces, and she does a great job on the delivery of the pitch and some good tone and power. That's good.
Does anybody want to take it anymore? Show must go on.
That's good right there. That's,
Show must go on. Yeah. Inside my heart is breaking. My makeup may be flaking, but my smile.
See about that? Flaking. At fast vibrato. Okay, so we've got Aliona doing this one. Now, I'm deliberately doing this because I want to show you different people that cover this. Now, I've got this one here, the same exact thing with my student Sarah, right? Check it out. By the way, Aliona, we pitched it up a little bit for her because she wanted it in a little higher key. This is the original key to the song. So I should have fast forwarded it, sorry. But Sarah's cute, she's worth watching.
Empty spaces, what are we living for? Abandoned places, I guess we know the score. On and on, does anybody know what we are looking for?
Now, I'm sold with Sarah, empty spaces. What are we living for? Abandoned places. I think we know the score. Right, she's got this really great command of bringing the passion into it. You see the look on her face. She believes the story in her heart as she's singing it. You can tell.
Another hero, another mindless crime behind the curtain. In the pantomime. Does anybody want to take it anymore? The show must go on. The show must go on. Yeah. Inside my heart is breaking. My makeup may be flaking, but my smile still stays on.
Cool. All right, so there's that, and then we believe it or not, we did this 3 times. Now this version here, I didn't teach Dino how to do this. Dino did this on his own. I'm not taking credit for Dino. We just happened to work together, and I wanted to promote him because he's just a phenomenal singer and just one of the greatest rock vocalists of our day. I mean, the guy, I wish there was a lot of guys following in his footsteps because he's killing it right now. He's a Trans-Siberian Orchestra singer, just doing a great job. But I want to play his version too because he has, I think, the closest version to Freddie of everybody, but he adds his own unique thing to it. Here we go.
Is what are we living for? Abandoned places. I guess we'll know the score. On and on. Does anybody know what we are living for? Another hero, another mindless crime behind the curtain in the pantomime. Does anybody want to take it anymore? Show must go on. Show must go on. Yeah. Inside my heart is breaking. My makeup may be flaking, but my smile still stays on.
Now, ironically, believe it or not, his vibrato is exactly the opposite of Freddie's. It's really interesting, you know. Empty spaces, what are we living for? You know, he's got that really kind of Coverdale, Ray Gillen, more on the Ray Gillen side of things. And what empty places? Well, I guess we know the score. You know, like almost like a little Dio in there, right? But his tone is killer. His vibrato's big and wide, kind of almost like Bruce Dickinson. I mean, big, wide vibrato. More like I said, more like Ray Gillen. And it's like if Ray Gillen took it up a notch and stepped in to singing this tune, Freddie would have been proud, Ray would have been proud, I'm proud, and Dino's killing it. So anyway, gang, if you like what you heard, again, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm doing a whole series on this stuff, and most of this is by request. So if you've got a request of someone you want me to do how to sing like, please put that in the description. Absolutely. And don't forget, I have a singing course called How to Sing Better Than Anyone Else, where we walk through all of this stuff step by step. And definitely check out my next video.